Hey guys, so we've got David from Employee Matters here. He's the general manager at Employee Matters, and we recently were able to set up a pretty cool dashboard for them and their business off the back of some core kind of challenges and outcomes that they wanted to achieve as part of the growth of the business in going to the next level. So I'm just going to ask David a few questions just to kind of allow him to share his experience, obviously as it relates to the business in terms of the core value, but then also the experience working with us as well. So David, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate your time.
No worries.
Awesome. So in terms of where you guys are at, or just before I jump into that, as a business snapshot, like one sentence, what do you guys do, just for whoever's watching?
Yeah, we help businesses achieve great results through their people. So we're essentially an HR consultancy helping people with their people needs.
Excellent. And so in terms of where you guys were at, and obviously you're still going through that challenge, and the dashboard we've been able to build collaboratively with you guys is helping you overcome that challenge. But previously, for the last kind of few months, 6 months, whatever it's been, what's been the core kind of undertone in terms of a challenge within the business that you've been working through?
Yes. So look, in terms of where we are with this is obviously the business, like any other business, is going through some really interesting times, as the world is with the pandemic. But specifically in terms of this, it's really what we've been challenged to do is to get a really efficient way of understanding the numbers in our business, which, as I say, is efficient, tells us all what we need to know, and doesn't involve hours of work in preparation.
Perfect. And so in terms of then the hours of work in preparation, like what did that look like? Like who was involved? What was sort of hours? What was the process previously?
Yeah, so we have a weekly exec team meeting, myself, the managing director, Natasha, and Mark, the finance director. And essentially Mark was having to prepare innumerable spreadsheets, pulling together data for us for that weekly meeting, just so we could look at the business performance on a weekly, monthly and annual basis. So what we were looking at was something that was we could look at in real time, not just in the meeting, and B, that would save Mark time in terms of the preparation he's doing for this, just to allow him to go and do some more significant work, just prepping data for us.
Yeah, and so it sounds like really the core for you guys was, which has come out through our conversations anyway, it's the fact that that's something that Mark was doing. There wasn't necessarily anything wrong or broken about that. It was just more about allocation of resources, especially for him in the role he's sitting in. How do we kind of switch out and get a bit more time back, and then allow kind of him to allocate that time elsewhere, but then also, as you touched on earlier, like it's that it's the ability for you guys to avoid extra meetings and communications and stuff where you don't need to, where there's that collaboratively ability to view data instantly yourselves in a way that's practical.
Well, that's it. I mean, so rather than going into the meeting and Mark presenting the data to us, Natasha and I can now go into the meeting having had a look at the data, so we can actually have a discussion about it without having to absorb the implications of the data right there and then, which I think is really useful. And as I say, from Mark's perspective, the more he can automate around this sort of stuff, the more he can really deep dive into the stuff he wants to do in the business.
Yeah, totally. And so in terms of your experience with us, like how would you describe the communication, the process, like what was the experience overall for you?
Well, it was a great experience. I think from my perspective, and certainly from Mark's perspective, what was great is that you guys actually got what we wanted pretty quickly. And not only were you saying, oh, this is, was it us saying, oh, this is what we want? You have some great ideas, obviously, with your platform as well, to say, well, look, here are some other ways that you can actually visualize this material, some other ways we can present the material. So it wasn't really just us saying, this is what we want, and you figuring out how to do it. It was a real collaborative process where you were giving us some great ideas. And, it was a pretty straightforward process as well. 2 or 3 meetings with you, and you doing a lot of work in the background made life really easy for us.
Perfect. I suppose it's one of those things that it's always a fine line between it's a fairly complex technical data kind of space, and it can get pretty far down the rabbit hole pretty quickly, and so I suppose it's one of those things that the more simple you can keep it within that context of complexity, it just makes it a lot easier for us, for you as well. So
Yeah, and look, well, I think what you did was as I said, we had the discussions about what we were looking for, and you didn't bother us too much about the technical detail. You went away and kind of figured that out. Obviously, giving you access to the systems in the background, you pretty much did that. So we didn't have to talk through the how very much. It was really just lots of, our conversations were just conversations about what.
totally.
You were fixing the how in the background, which is a really efficient way of doing things, obviously.
Perfect. Yeah. And so we already touched on a few things in terms of outcomes for you guys, but what are you and the team most excited about kind of moving forward in terms of this elevation of your ability to see the performance within the business?
Yeah, well, so far we've got one dashboard, which is basically the business metrics, which is what we were looking for. We're loving that. As I said, we are about to open that up to the team. We're pretty transparent as a business with our business results. So we're about to open that up to the team. And then what we're really excited about is the possibilities for this. So, the next stage is looking at KPI reporting for the people in the business. It's looking at pipeline reporting, so pulling. This has pulled the dashboard we've got is great. It's pulled information from our finance package Zero. It's pulled information from our timekeeping software Harvest. But now we can move into reporting from our CRM, so doing pipeline. KPI reporting. So I think this is one dashboard that we've got, but what it's done is open our eyes to the possibilities of where to from here, and we can get our act together about some of the data gathering and making sure the quality of the data is good enough at our end. We're really looking forward to more dashboards, which again will give everybody in the business a real good heads up on where we are and how we're tracking.
Totally. It's one of those things that in terms of value of anything, right, is if you take that away from someone and then they kind of if they don't notice, well, then it's potentially maybe not as valuable, versus if you take it away and it's kind of, you feel like you're in the dark and you're kind of like, well, hey, actually we need that back. It's a pretty big thing. So I suppose for you guys moving forward, the fact that you're kind of leaning more and more into this space of visibility and simplicity around tracking performance, and that collaborative aspect of bringing the team in and accountability translating out that way, and the momentum you're able to build, versus kind of Mark going down that pathway had you not kind of gone down this pathway and kind of still pulling together the spreadsheets. Like, what do you see as the core difference, say in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months from here, of how those different pathways would play out?
Yeah, look, I think, as I say, for us, I think, visibility and, it's the old mantra, what gets measured gets done. So that we're actually looking at some, the key stats in our business, and they're much more front of mind for everybody. We can actually manage to those and make sure they get done. There's also also an element which this removes that key person risk as well. The amount of work Mark does in the background, as I say, with innumerable spreadsheets, tracking everything so that he can produce reports for clients and things like that. And what we're moving to is a much more, open system where we can pull reports, from the platforms that we're using. But what we can do with you is have that ready data, the key data visible on an ongoing basis, which means, if somebody's away, if it's me in terms of the people reporting, if it's Mark in terms of the finances, me in terms of pipeline, whatever, it's not reliant on us, because your dashboards are actually giving everybody the real-time information as we move forward. So that's going to be key for us.
Yeah, which is massive, right? As you're scaling, as you're growing, it's like key person dependency is such a big risk that until it happens, like until someone kind of has to step away, or they've got personal responsibilities, or they're not available, or whatever it is, they move on in a team. You don't really notice it until you've had that experience, and then it kind of wipes you for a reasonable amount of time. So
they're just key to the dashboards are key to scaling anyway. As I say, because it just takes away, from the resource drain of having to put all this stuff together on a regular basis. It's just happening. You guys have set it up, so it happens. It's there. It's available. Allows us to do some, obviously some things which are much more impactful for the business.
Yeah, sure. So final question, I suppose one of the key things is, like, there's plenty of businesses out there. I talk to heaps of businesses all the time, and it's kind of like some people are like, oh, do we really need it? Can we just make do with existing reporting within one system? Or can we just kind of make do with our spreadsheets? Do we actually need to go down that pathway of kind of engaging and developing and creating something like this in the business? For you guys, like, what would you kind of say? What would be the core message to someone who's kind of on the fence thinking, will I actually get the value from it?
Look, it's pretty simple. Do you want to grow your business? If you want to grow your business, you don't want to be in the weeds of producing this data. You want to be out there growing your business. You want your people focused on the growth and scaling your business. This is stuff that just needs automating. You've got to automate what you can automate. So you're spending your time on high value stuff. So if you're not interested in growing your business, don't bother. But I don't know many people who aren't. So anybody who's interested in growing your business has got to look at something like this, just to free the time, the resources, the potential of your people to actually go on and do the stuff that is going to move you forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate your sharing openly and honestly, and appreciate your time as well.
No problem at all.
Cheers.